did Cavendish ever hire somebody for that position?
I don't know.
It's still on their website.
Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
Interesting.
Right there.
People on the
February
Cavendish. I tell people, I said, I don't like. Additions to the agenda? No. Third item is the annual board reorganization. We'll start with the election of a chairman of the board. We have a nomination for the chair.
I'll nominate Dave. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Floor is yours, sir.
I'll take it. The next one is the vice chair, take a nomination for that. BJ's nominating Ron. I'll second that, all in favor. And for the clerk?
Nominate Alicia.
No, that's not me.
No, that'd be BJ.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second that, all in favor.
Aye.
Appoint Ludlow Enterprise Fund Committee member.
Do we even have one anymore?
We do, it's coming back.
Oh, it is?
Really?
If it's not going to be, it will be in that form, a little more of like an impact fee, but enterprise fund. So yes, so I think we should have a committee member.
You want to serve on that,
Sure.
Ron?
I did before.
I'll nominate Ron.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Set day and time for the regular meeting and alternate. We typically, since I've been on, we've had the first Tuesday at 5, and the alternate is the third Tuesday at 5. I'd like to make
I'll
that.
make a motion, we set the date and time for Tuesdays at 5. First Tuesday of the month at 5,
Okay.
with the alternate, third Tuesday.
Yep. Seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Adopt Robert's Rules of Orders, which we typically do.
Make a motion, we adopt the Robert's Rules of Order. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Adopt a recording secretary.
No, you're not adopting me.
For
Appointed.
You said adopt.
appointed.
We wouldn't adopt.
We wouldn't adopt you, no.
I'll make a motion to adopt. Appoint Alicia.
Careful with your words, Ron.
All in favor? Aye.
Legal.
Designate paper of record that we still use in the Vermont Journal with the Rutland Herald's backup.
Correct.
Make a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approve the minutes from the previous meeting of March 4th.
Just got them, but I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting on March 4th.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from citizens? There appear to be none this evening. Moving right along. Department head report.
Was just handed out.
Okay.
Yep, so you should have a copy.
So,
Got 4 of them.
Thank you, Alicia.
the village water treatment facility and water distribution system are working as they should. The springs produced 12.9 million gallons of water in March, and we consumed 7.1 million gallons. Altitude valve and Godfrey tank valves are working fine. 46 Andover Street had a frozen water service line under the road. Gurney Brothers came to thaw it out and thawed the line with their tube. So was that our issue, or was it the customers?
46 was the customers, 211 was ours.
211 Main Street had a frozen water line under the road. Gurney Brothers attempted to thaw it with their tube, but were unable to do so, so we had to hook a welder to it instead. Okay. We're flushing the blow-offs on Deep Lawn Court Extension and Thompson Avenue every week, and to continue to flush our backup well weekly and make sure things are running as it should. Respectively submitted, Joe Guardian, Ludlow Water Department. Okay. Good things are working. How are we doing on accounts receivable?
Accounts receivable are good. We have received in the last 3 days some significant payments that have decreased what we have outstanding. One thing, so if you remember last month, we spoke about 22 Andover, which was the service that was not billed for 20 years,
Okay.
since 2002. That now is on, that's $4,000 on the water side, give or take. That is now in the age receivables. I have spoken with the attorney for the current owner of 22 Andover Street, and she is putting in writing just kind of an outline of their situation. They would like the board to have some further discussions about it, which I'll propose at our next meeting. I think, there could be there's some outstanding circumstances that could allow for some, decisions that the board, middle ground,
Just to refresh my memory and to update DJ, this came about, we think, when we switched software in the office.
So long story is that about 2 months ago, the house was going to be listed for sale. Their listing attorney came in and said, we want to add a 5th bedroom allocation onto the house. So what do we need to do? We go to look and we say, well, you don't have any allocation. So since 2002, which was right around the time that we switched and updated computer software, that was missed. Now, there could be discussion of, yes, it's a town issue because we missed the billing for 20 years, but also the service was used, services were rendered, and I personally, and I've said this on record, have necessarily a hard time seeing that you went 20 years without saying, hey, where does my water come from? But again, so the board we made a group decision to say, all right, it's going to be paid, but again, without getting into details, we'll probably have to do it in an executive session because there is some sensitive information, and then make a decision coming out. We can talk about that. But
that would be next time you'll have it.
I'll have a proposal, and I'll have it from their attorney with details laid out.
Are they asking for relief from the total cost that they owe at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And they're trying to say that they shouldn't pay the full amount or shouldn't pay any amount? Or?
They haven't said, it's more of a discussion on what can be done.
Okay.
Because again, there's some extenuating circumstances there that I'll lay out when we have, it's just a little, it's kind of sensitive legal stuff.
Okay. And is there any way to check to see if there are any other circumstances, any other situations like that on the books?
And that's the thing, is that I would hope to say no. I've asked Joe to kind of start checking off, houses that say, all right, we know they have a service there. But, we don't, everything is billed as a flat fee, so we're not reading meters. So until someone comes to us like this situation, I would like to think that there's not.
Right. Can we do something more simple, like cross-reference the Ludlow electric records to the Ludlow town water records, just to verify that?
Possibly. I think the
Just
easiest, might be having, the guys as they're going down, through the street, checking.
Yeah, okay.
Which can be done, it's just a time-consuming thing. One thing we can do is cross-reference our lead line service inventory with our billing records, which could be done, so.
Good.
Okay, all right. Water allocation request, 18 Terrace Avenue, currently have 2-bedroom allocation, would like to add 1 bedroom to make it a 3-bedroom allocation.
So that is again, more of a clerical. We have it's located at 18 Terrace Ave. Joe has seen no problem with it, as did myself, so they are just requesting one more water outage.
So would you like a motion?
Please.
I move to approve it.
Okay, for 18 Terrace Ave, adding one additional bedroom.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Manager update.
So, really not a heck of a lot in the water world right now. Kind of moving towards, some of the spring cleanup is a big thing, getting through the really, two of the big ones that we have right now, besides just normal spring cleanup, is we're working the paving project on Main Street that's being done by Fuller Paving, that is V-Trans is funding, but that's paving from village line to village line on Main Street. That is set to start milling on the 15th of April. So we have been out, or they're starting to go, they were marking curb stops and all, marking everything walking it with Fuller Paving to make sure everything is in place for there. Today, we had a day with Vermont Rural Water because we're kind of experiencing that Godfrey tank at this point is not filling all the way. So, and not that we're at a shortage of water, but, if you say that it generally fills to 12 feet, the tank is filled to 12 feet. Right now, it's only getting to about 11, and then it won't continue to fill. It levies off there. Whether that's because there's a leak somewhere, obviously, nothing has shown or presented itself over the winter. And for me, I would think as the ground started to thaw too, you might see a leak, if there is a leak, increase somewhere. But that hasn't been the case. So Joe at Vermont Rural Water Company, it doesn't cost us anything to take a look at the valve, make sure everything's good. And I haven't heard the report back. Again, there's not any concern of a shortage of water, it's just, it's not filling to where it should.
Is there an automatic shut off to stop it
There is.
anyway? Is that been adjusted at all?
That has.
Yeah.
So just something we're keeping our eyes on, but it's nothing that has had any issues. And the warning sensors, we have warning valves on all the tank, or at least on the Godfrey tank, that if it gets to a low level, it alerts Joe, it alerts myself on our cell phones that low level valves open, which is wonderful at 2 a.m. when the power goes out. It's like, oh God. But those are working. So we're just trying to sort out why that night might not be filling all the way. We've had, we had some previous issues up on Thompson Ave, Ryan Ave, with some dirty water, as well as, down, seems to have kind of cleared up. Really kind of jumped on Flushing a little bit more. I think that does some wonders, because those lines on Thompson and Orion are not necessarily old. I mean, they're
not new.
I know, but they're 60s or 70s, right? Thought that's what.
Wasn't sure how the house go in.
Maybe that, I thought Ron Harbaugh.
They're also dead end lines, so
That's part of the problem, is that it's a dead end line. So. Yeah.
I got a couple. Where are we with FEMA funding for a stream crossing on Apple Plumley Avenue? We had a stream crossing get disturbed during a flood, 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
We've kind of valved around it, waiting for FEMA to.
So we have submitted our cost estimates for a directional drill through the stream, which actually might end up being just not necessarily directional drilling, but they might have a day of that and lay it under the. So we've submitted those costs to FEMA, we're just waiting for their counter or their approval. But the engineer's in place as is, then we will just put it out to bid, so we hope that, it's not a major job, so I would anticipate it being, done this summer.
Yeah, if you can time it towards the drier weather.
Yeah, then you don't have as much runoff from the river.
That's all I've got. And they're gonna clean the tanks. I missed the last meeting, but
Yeah.
the one before, you had some pictures of some sediment.
Yep, so they're gonna clean the tanks. We've given them that okay, they're just, we have the bids from 2 of the contractors right now, and obviously we'd like to get that done sooner than later, just to get it done. So one, we're gonna see which one, they're both, the cost estimates are very, very close, so a lot of it's gonna come down to, one said, oh, well, it could be 8 to 12 weeks. I said, well, we'd probably like it done a little sooner than that. So, both reputable companies, so we'll get that done, and that'll be a good thing.
We finished the asset management plan, that's put to bed now. The lead line plan is done, that's something the state asked us to do. We had to go do an inventory of possible lead service lines. They went around, we hired engineers, they went around, took them several months. The state paid for the grant, that's one of the few they paid for. So we had to have that for the next, what's the next step on that?
The next step is basically, so there are lines that we know are lead, and there's some that are determined that are unknown for whatever reasons. Whether they can't be seen or the homeowner doesn't have the correct information. So now we have to determine, we have the lead and the unknown, and how we determine what the unknown are, as well as a plan for replacement. Right now, it's a funding issue, because that'll be grossly expensive. This part of it was, I think it was 65,000, something like that, through MSK Engineers, which was completely funded, reimbursable, so it's still, I like, it's great that they reimburse us for it, but they make it sound like there's no hardship to the town, but when you're cutting $15,000 checks all the time and waiting for the process to come through, it still becomes difficult. So, speaking with Patrick Smart, who's one of the principals at MSK, it's really, we have all the paperwork and our loan applications in place to be submitted if and when the state says funding's available. And that's really our option, because we're not gonna go out and do, I think it comes down to, the state is probably like, they give us the first portion of it. They put a deadline and said, you're going to have to do this by such and such a date. Then the funding came and they paid for it. I'm assuming it's gonna be the same course of action, because I think they'd be hard pressed to say, you have to do this, and now you have to pay for it as well. Because, people have a hard time too of saying, and it was hard, because people get this notice in the mail, oh my God, there's lead in the water. Well, that's not the case, and, even it's a service line that has been there for X amount of years.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the areas that they addressed are the actual lines to the customers, which is their line.
That is part of it too.
So our mains are fine, it's just.
Yeah, the mains are fine,
Yeah.
so, that's the other piece, is that there has to be funding available, because it would be hard pressed for us to do this whole thing in the town that says, well, here you go, you gotta dig it up, and guess what, you're paying for it.
All right, hold on.
So,
Okay. The other question I ask about this time every year is the state priority funding list. I assume that we're on that, and who is our engineer now? Does that still with Elliott and Aldrich, or
so our most recent submittal for that, because we submit for that in January,
okay.
is Aldrich and Elliott. They submitted, because whether or not we change engineers, that's something that we've considered.
Well, on the High Street project, we changed from Dufresne Group to Aldrich and Elliott.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've been, so for our water crossing, the water line we spoke, we talked about on Conley, I've been using oil tanner. And John Olin with them is I've worked well with.
Okay.
Nothing against Aldrich and Elliott, it's just,
Yeah.
sometimes, as you know, with engineers, they can become very comfortable, so it's
Fresh
like
set
a-
of eyes.
Yeah, fresh set of eyes.
What the funding priority list is, BJ, is we have a couple projects that are in the pipeline. We've got the first stage of the engineering done, and then we apply to the state drinking water fund for funding. It's based on a point system. Our problems aren't
They're
bad
not-
enough.
they're not bad enough
So
where we're-
so
yeah.
we don't get funding, but if we ever do, we got a High Street project that goes from the Catholic Church to the Baptist Church for water lines, and we got a High Street extension that goes from the wastewater plant around to,
Yeah.
back to where we stopped.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an address, but,
It's like 89.
Pleasant Street extension,
Yeah,
so it's a pretty good chunk of pipe, but, so, we like to have a project or two shovel-ready, kind of, and then if for some reason money drops out of the sky, we're ahead of the game.
Does the state ever dictate what our priorities should be, or are we allowed to choose?
They can.
They can.
They can, and sometimes, I think they kind of do by not giving us the funding, in a way. We're not necessarily, could we change, we've moved up a little bit in the last 2 or 3 years. And those are important projects for
Yeah.
us there. But,
They're on the same page as us. I
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We don't have anything that, it's, knock on wood, contaminated drinking water, stuff like that. That is a, public health crisis. At that point, you'd move up the ladder very quickly.
Our projects are just pipes that need to be replaced because they're old.
Yeah.
Undersized.
Exactly, old and undersized.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Okay. Agenda items for the next meeting, talk more on
22 Andover.
22 Andover, 8 and then accounts receivables. We signed the warrant orders, we're good there. Also executive session, we all set?
Sir.
Okay. Oh, I have a question. I got some information from Diane for your evaluation. When, that has to be done by the end of June, right? July?
Around there, well, yeah. I
Well,
think it's-
that's when you're,
Well, my
I-
anniversary date, however they do it, is actually Thursday. So
that's 2 years? Wow.
it's like it's standing still.
Wow, man.
Surprised, I come in every day, I'm surprised they haven't changed the locks. So,
Yeah, we'll have to lock you in.
change the passcode.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
so at some point, I don't even know when the select board or trustees are gonna do it.
Okay, just curious. If we're all set, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There we go, we're adjourned. Thank you.
We did miss the next meeting in May 6th, but we know that. It's on the board.
Oh, good,